So hello, everybody. My name is Sejin. I'm a PM on the Python AI team. So I work on developer tools for data science experiences, which includes a wide variety of things. But for this talk, I work on Jupyter Notebook experiences in VS Code. So for those of you who didn't know already, yes, notebook experiences do exist in VS Code, and it's pretty awesome in my opinion. For this session, I won't go through a data science project or a tutorial per se. Instead, I'll share all the cool and random little things that you can do with notebooks and around notebooks in VS Code. And I hope that you can take away at least one cool thing from this session. That's my goal. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? And is it full screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Because I can see that I'm sharing my screen, but it looks really small, so I wasn't sure if that was just me. Awesome. Cool. So why, you might be asking yourself, would I use notebooks in VS Code, right? I mean, notebooks work pretty great on Jupyter already. Thing is, the data science workflows or any data work really goes beyond notebooks work, right? But you're unable to do, to work with multiple file types or language types in Jupyter. So that's where VS Code notebook experiences come in. You get, really with VS Code, best of both worlds of a full-featured editor and a notebook experience. So VS Code is one of the most widely used IDEs. So you get its editor functionalities like debugging, embedded Git control, IntelliSense, what other cool things are there? Integrated terminal and some awesome Python support through the extension, as Luciano might say. And I agree too, and I'm sure a lot of people agree too. And on top of that, you get Jupyter Notebook functionalities with the extension. I have the repo here for anybody who's interested. You get all of that within VS Code. And you can extend notebook functionalities, as I'll be showing you today, through VS Code's well-established extension marketplace. All right, so without further ado, let's switch over to VS Code. All right, for a quick introduction to basic Jupyter Notebook experiences in VS Code. And yes, I'll go over this super quickly, but do feel free to just yell at me gently if this is too basic for you. I'll ask the moderators to gauge that for me through chat. Yeah, so here we are in VS Code. It's super easy to get started with notebooks. I would say like maybe 3 steps. So you just go ahead and click on File, New File, click on Jupyter Notebook. And then your notebook is already there for you. And you can say, I don't know, print hello, Pi Cascades, Control Enter, and then there you go. Your notebook's already running. I didn't do anything special to it. It's just VS Code and the Jupyter Notebook extension. You can actually, instead of creating a new file here, you can run or open an existing folder or project that you might have. You can do that by opening a folder as you would with any other projects in VS Code. The way I do it, of all the ways, the way I normally do it, I'm weirdo, so I do it through terminal. So I basically navigate to the folder that I'm interested in, and then I go ahead and type code-insiders. And what that does is it opens my folder that I was in a new instance of Visual Studio Code. And this is the insider versions, which is why I put code-insiders. You can go ahead and do code dot if you want to do it on a stable version of Visual Studio Code. All right. I don't need to getting started. Let's go ahead and open this notebook that I have here. And it's really super easy to see all the things that are loaded on here, and you can select your kernel through here. This is the one I do want to use, but I did want to mention one quick cool extension, which a lot of the things are actually still loading, so it's very slow right now. Bear with me. It's called the Python Environment Manager. What this does, there we go, is that you can actually see all the environments that are Python environments that are available for you. So if you go to, where is it? Python, there we go. look at all these different environments that are available for me, my Conda environments, my other global environments, and the particular one that I'm using right now is Golden Scenario. So if I wanted to actually expand and want to learn a little bit more about it, I can go through and do that, and even see all the packages that are installed on that environment, which I think is pretty cool. All right, cool. Let's run a few cells, because why not? Shift-Enter works just fine. And actually, let me turn on screencast mode. I thought it was turned on earlier, so that you guys know what I'm doing. Control-Enter works as well. So all the key bindings that you would expect from a Jupyter Notebook works in VS Code as well. With that, some other just quick tidbits is you can collapse and uncollapse cells in Visual Studio Code Notebooks. So if you go ahead and click on these blue bars, which might be different colors for you depending on which theme you have set for yourself on VS Code. And then what else can you do here? You can also look at outline, which is basically a table of contents for your notebook. So you can jump to different sections in your notebooks, as you would in Jupyter Classic experiences as well. And on the topic of collapsing things, you can collapse your code and uncollapse it. Ooh, it's not working. Wow, of everything, that's the last thing that I thought would work. Anyways, it's working now. Yeah, you can do that like you would with any other code in Visual Studio Code as well. So as you saw me here, if you actually click on a cell, I'm going to introduce you to these two little things here. One is to execute above cells, which executes all the cells above this cell, or the other one, which executes the current cell and all the cells below it. But right now, what I'm going to do is actually, let's restart the kernel. And then on a clean state, I will run all of the cells so that the notebook runs all of my cells. And instead of actually just scrolling through to find where your notebook is running which cell, you can click on this thing called Go to Running Cell, and then it will actually just jump you to wherever the notebook is running your cell. So that's really cool. So yeah, that was a super duper quick introduction of notebooks in VS Code. But while the notebook is running, I can introduce you to this thing called Interactive Window. If you have never heard of Interactive Window before, it really could be used, I think, as a replacement for notebooks or even in conjunction with notebooks. Some folks like to work in Python files instead of notebook files because notebooks tend to get a little bit messy, right? But with Interactive Window, you can kind of use it as an advanced REPL playground. The way I think of it is it's like a Python terminal on steroids. So it does what a terminal does, but then you can also do visualization, and there's built-in interactivity with Python files. So anyways, let me stop talking and actually show you what that means. In order to do that here, let me create a Python file from this notebook. So I can do that by right-clicking on my Python on my notebook file, and I can say convert to Python script, or there's a exact same thing that you can do here, ... export, and then you can export your notebook as an HTML file, PDF file, but for now we'll do Python script. And what this did was VS Code converted your notebook into a Python script with all these little like hashtag %, which is might look a little bit funny to you at first. But this is what allows your Python file to kind of behave like notebook cells. And you can actually navigate through quote unquote cells by using this keyboard key binding, Control Alt and brackets. So you can go to next cell, go to previous cells. So I think of it as a flatter looking notebook, but the magic happens with the interactive window. So to run a few cells, let me, you can see this code lens here. I can run this cell here, and it's connecting to the kernel. This is a new instance. It's a new instance of this kernel, different from this one that's currently running on my notebooks. And once it's connected, it will go ahead and run what I've just told it to run. And then I can run this cell as well. But instead of clicking on the button here on the code lens, what you can also do is do Control Enter. And it popped up this interactive window right on the right side. Let me run a few more cells to show you what I mean. So you can kind of look at it. It looks like a terminal. You kind of type some code and then it shows something here. And here, what I can do is even, let's run a few more things. I don't know, for run cell. Hello. There we go. Okay, it's thinking. And I don't know if you've noticed that while I was running these things, and if you noticed it and didn't know about it, this go-to thing, kudos for you for having really good eyesight. But we have this thing called go-to. And so what you can do is if you click on that, it actually goes to wherever that cell was ran in the interactive window. So that's what I meant by interactivity with Python file earlier, was you can actually go back and forth between the code and the interactive window. So that's what makes it super duper easy to work with your Python file and without making your Python file super messy. All right, let's insert a cell for the fun of it, hashtag %%, and that actually creates a cell, a code cell by default, but you can tell it to be a markdown cell, and you can type some markdown. I don't know, let's say, look at data frame. I don't know. And then let's create a new cell here and type in housing, which is a data frame that I have up there. Dot, and I don't know if you can see here, but the IntelliSense is kind of working its magic here, and it shows some actually not working as I had expected. Housing dot. Might have to log a bug about this. Shape. All right, there we go. Shape. Cool. And ooh, not close. Dot shape. And then you can go ahead and actually run this. Control Enter, and then it'll show you shape of the data frame. Not super interesting, but you know, it does its job. And then you can actually just type it into the input box of the interactive window itself. So you can go housing dot shape. You can see the IntelliSense is working fine now here. Shift Enter to actually run it in the interactive window without dealing with your Python file. And then what you can do, what I did here was I created a cell on the Python file and then I ran it on the interactive window. But you can do it the other way around. So you can type your code first and then you can copy it and paste it in there. Whoop. Copy. Paste. There we go. And then it pastes in that cell. Multiple ways of doing different things, going back and forth, which I think is super duper cool. All right, and IntelliSense works exactly the same on notebooks as well. So if you go to notebooks and if you were to, yes, I will save it. Housing predictions. Okay. If I were to go to the notebook and type in housing, might be a little bit slow because the notebook is running and I'm sharing my screen. So IntelliSense should be working. Hello. Well, there we go.
Did you pay your respects to the demo god today?
Wow, I have not, and maybe that's what it was.
Well, no, look at that. It worked.
Kind of. All right, there we go.
God.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, demo gods. All right. So anyways, all of these IntelliSense brought to you by Pylance. You can ask Luciana all about that. Cool. All right. So enough about that stuff. Let's maybe do some cool stuff. Okay, I don't know what happened here now. Hello, I did not mean to create a new thing. Don't save it. Okay. You can actually turn your notebook into a presentation, or like not even a notebook, any exploratory data work or any work that you do into a presentation in VS Code. And I'll show you how to do that with this cool extension called MARP for VS Code. I already have it installed, but once you have it installed, here, let me exit out of this here. Once you have that installed, what you can do is you can go ahead and open up the command palette and say new MARP, and you can just create a new untitled Markdown. So it's really not that special. It's just a Markdown file with mark true on it. And you can just copy and paste some of your code in there. I don't know, let's go to the top and copy this stuff in here. Create a new slide and I don't know, copy some picture on there because pictures are always cool and amusing to look at. This one, I'll go ahead and save this guy as in my images folder. I'll save it as median house value map PNG. Sounds good. So I can go ahead and do something like images median house value map. The PNG. And then you do this little thing to preview your presentation. Pretty cool. And images is not showing up. Did I spell it wrong? Median house value map. Oh, bad. Okay, well, that's not my extension, so I don't blame myself for this one. It should have worked. Yeah, that's how you create new presentations. Hello. All right, there we go. I'll replace it with that. And then you can even do things like class invert if you wanted to make it a dark theme. I personally don't like dark presentations, so I leave it as usually the default. And then a cool thing that you can also do here is you can paste some tables in here too, directly from your CSV file, which I think is really cool. So I do that with two extensions. So if you go to Excel Viewer, that's one of them that I use over here. And then the other one that I use is called Excel to Markdown. Excel to Markdown table. So these are the two extensions that I'm using, I'll be using for this next demo. And so what I will do is I have this data here, my CSV file over here, and instead of opening it from Excel, I just right-click on the file itself, and I go ahead and do Open with CSV Viewer, and whoa, look at that! It actually renders your CSV file in your VS Code. I mean, I didn't have to start up Excel. That was really cool. Okay, I'm really nerdy, and I get excited about little things like this. With the other extension that I showed you, which is Excel to Markdown table, what you can do is, let me just copy some of this stuff and then go over here and say Shift-Alt-V to paste what I just copied as a Markdown table. Super cool. Also renders in MARP as well. Really awesome. All right. So I get really excited about little things like this, and I do a lot of these things when I do presentations. And so hopefully this is somewhat helpful or new to you that you're learning, taking away from here. So there's other ones that does this too. I'm not trying to endorse MARP or any of these extensions for that matter. I just think that these are cool if it means anything. VS Code Reveal is another one that I think is really good. This is another one of those presentation files. So this one actually has an extension tab, which it's really difficult to actually see this side of my screen because of the way I have my computer set up. So bear with me here, VS Code Reveal. And what you can do is reveal JS. And this one actually has cute little animations to kind of go back and forth between your slides. So whichever one you prefer, you can go ahead and use. It depends on your preferences. Yeah, you can just explore a lot more cool extensions developed by the community in our VS Code Marketplace. Cool. Awesome. Let's go back to the notebook. It's all run. It's done running. Let me see. Go to the bottom. I know it's done running because that little blue bar that was telling me that it was running stopped, but I just wanted to make sure. Let's take a look at Variable Explorer and Data Viewer for here now. Not the most creative names, I get it, but it does get the point across, I think. Let's take a look at Variable Explorer first, which is mainly used along with our debugging features. And so you can open your variables, and once you run your notebooks, it actually tells you all the different variables that you have in your notebook, which is listed with the name, their type, size, and as well as some of the value, a preview of the value to some of these like data frames and things like that. Let me write a quick, I don't know, super simple code to quote unquote demo debugging. I don't know, 4x banana. Because I'm hungry. Apple. Pear. Print x. That's too short. X is equal to apple. Print everything. There we go. Super simple. There's this thing called run by line. So if you actually click on the run by line, what it does is it'll run each line of your cell. And it kind of works as your debugging tool. So once you do that, it spits up your Jupyter variables. Let's say that I wanted to continue to explore the variable called x. If I go ahead and sort by name, here is, this is the other x that's up there. If I run it, it should appear. There we go. There's an x that tells me that the value is banana, and then you can go ahead and just continue to run your code. I know a lot of you probably have a lot of print statements in your code, and this is one way that you can get rid of those print statements if you wanted to. And another way of doing it, instead of doing run by line, is you can actually set breakpoints in your code. And then start a debugging session in your cell as well. So you can go ahead and debug your cell just by itself with the breakpoint as you would with any other file. Did that start? Something happened? Is it thinking? Yes, it's starting. Okay, there we go. So that's another cool thing that you can do in notebooks in Visual Studio Code. All right, you can, do the regular stuff, step into, step over, step out of, that kind of stuff. I don't need to debug this with you. It's pretty simple code. Probably does what you would literally think that it would do. But instead, let's go to another thing that I wanted to share with you. So that was the Variable Explorer, but let's take a look at Data Viewer. Data Viewer you can think of as an extension of the Excel Viewer extension that I told you about earlier. So if I go to, let's sort it here. Let's take a look at something that might be a little bit more interesting. I don't know what's going on. It's like blinking on me. All right, stop. All right, there we go. Let's look at this housing data frame here. If you click on this icon, it will say show variable and data viewer. And it opens up that data viewer, kind of looks like that Excel viewer that I showed you earlier. And so basically it allows you to review your data, sort your data, filter different rows. You can sort it like this. I don't know if any of this is interesting, but maybe let's do less than 3 for this. What is this? Housing median. I don't know. It just says filters is what I'm trying to say here. Greater than 200 or something like that. Multiple filters, multiple sortings of the data works. So you're doing this on your own variables, like this data frame here, beyond a saved CSV or XLS files, which is really cool. So you don't have to, so that you can actually view your data and your variables this way. And you don't have to worry about manipulating the variable itself while you're doing this. And then you can also, just view your data without making your notebook messy. So that's a really cool feature. Cool, cool, cool. Now that I've made some changes to my notebook, why don't I go to the source control, take advantage of the integration of the built-in Git integration here. Wow, why is that flickering? Okay, that stopped. I don't know what I did, but that stopped. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to go on this tab here, source control tab. And once you've signed into GitHub, you can see all the changes that you made and what changed from your source repo. And here, if you click on the file, actually, let me save my notebook file so that that would appear here too. Yeah, there we go. If you click on it, you can actually see a diff view of your notebook as well. So what changed in your notebook? If you scroll all the way down, the code that I put in is actually shown up here, whereas the before version didn't have it. Once it looks all good, all you need to do is go ahead and type in some message. I don't know. I was hungry. And then just stage some of the changes that you want to push to your repo. I will just go ahead and do all of them. Why not? Submit your change, and then go ahead and push my change. So that's one way that you can actually push some of your changes to your repo. And so if I go to GitHub, it should update. I was hungry. So I go to my notebook, and then it should have the changes that I made. So you don't have to type in like git add dot and git commit -m and git push and all of that. You can just click buttons and then you'll be good to go. Cool, cool, cool. While on the topic of GitHub, one of my new favorite features on GitHub is the dot. If you were here earlier, Luciana talked about github.dev, which is a browser-based editor, and it looks just like Visual Studio Code. And it's really convenient to make quick changes on your notebook. So if you go ahead and click on a dot, or literally type dot on your GitHub repo, it sets up your editor, and you can go ahead and make changes to your notebooks. You could run your notebook technically using an extension called Pyodide. And if you were here earlier, sorry, you're hearing this again, that one of our team members, Joyce, had developed. You could run it, but the thing about it is that you can't run everything. Well, one, because there's no compute behind this editor experience, unless you're on CodeSpaces, of course. But the Pyodide doesn't really have, it has limited support for packages, and common data size packages like pandas is not supported. And so until that's supported, we won't be able to run this cell, which literally the very first line in this cell is import pandas. Which is a little bit unfortunate, but you could technically run simple cells, say if you wanted to, not a markdown, delete. code if you wanted to do print high. Ooh, that didn't work. Code print high. That should work. So that's actually one of the really cool things that one of my favorite features from GitHub. And
Hey, Sujin.
yeah.
This has been awesome. First of all, we're at like about 2-3 minutes until we'll switch over to kind of the Ask Me Anything with Ian.
Sure.
But yeah, this has been great. Like, you're a natural doing these demos.
Sure. Did you want me to open it up for Q&A then, or?
Yeah, let's do that. There.
Yeah.
See Ian's. Yeah, I see your note there, Ian. That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. And then feel free to ask any questions for Sujin on her demos. Yeah, and anything at all.